Hi there BookTube, it's Janet and today I've got a special guest and this is my daughter Lorna. We thought we'd have a little chat about reading across the generations. So obviously as a bookish mum I have been quite keen that Lorna reads, and so I thought we'd just have a chat about how she started to enjoy reading and the books that she liked to read as she's gone from being a child to an adolescent to now an adult. Do you remember what your earliest memories of reading?
Well, I don't... Being read to, I have memories of. Well, there was always Pingu, because we read Pingu, and my favourite story of that was when Pinga had a poo.
Yes. Yeah, I remember reading that one quite regularly, yeah. The Pinga did a poo, and it was a little yellow poo in the book, and it used to make you roll about laughing every time we read it, and you loved it.
This one, which is the shark who bit things it shouldn't.
Yes, which you've probably heard me mention on my channel recently, because we rediscovered this and we bought it because we'd lost track of the copy of this one, and I probably know this off by heart because I read it so many times here.
It was our favourite.
Yeah, and it's just so much fun. If you can get a copy of it, I do recommend it. It's by Dennis Bond, and it's just got fantastically fun illustrations, and it's just a lovely fun story. Can you remember the first books you started to read on your own and how you came across them?
I have a vivid memory of that. We were in Waterstones one day. I don't remember what Waterstones. And Adam came up to us and then he said, "Look at this book, Lorna, you'll like it." And it was Amber the Orange Fairy.
Oh yes, yeah.
From the Rainbow Fairy series, and I read so many of them.
Yeah, Rainbow Magic.
I read so many. I think I read them all up until the point where I got too old.
Yeah.
For them. There's millions.
There
more.
are millions of them.
Yeah.
The books by Daisy Meadows, which I remember you being quite horrified when you found out that they were written by several different authors, all under this name of Daisy Meadows.
The story that probably I remember connecting with the most and actually making me feel something was this one, which was Kenzuki's Kingdom by Michael Morpurgo, and we read this in school when I was in year 6, and I just remember absolutely loving it. I was one of the children that always read ahead because the class read too slow, so I read this one really fast and then just started reading loads of Michael Morpurgo's after that.
Well, I'd never read Michael Morpurgo before because obviously he wasn't around when I was a child, and you bought me this. I think, was it last Christmas?
It might have been
2015
or
birthday, and I read it and I absolutely loved it. I have actually talked about it on this channel before. It's almost a little bit like The Life of Pi, where a young boy gets stranded on an island because his parents are on a sea voyage to set a new life somewhere. And he gets, I can't, does he fall overboard or he gets stranded overboard, I can't remember. And he thinks he's alone on this island and then he's struggling to survive and someone is helping him survive, and then eventually he meets Kenzuki, who's an old Japanese man who basically they have such a lovely relationship, and it's an absolute, the book is quite a quick read, but the amount that is packed into those pages is absolutely wonderful. So I definitely would like to read more Michael Morpurgo on your recommendation. But Kenzuki's Kingdom has been one of my favourite books that I've read as well, and I read it as an adult. So from Michael Morpurgo, where did we go next?
Well, I read that when I was about maybe 10 or 11, so it was the tween years after that. And these are very girly looking books, and that's probably what caught my eye with them at first.
Yeah.
So this is Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging.
Yes, and you can see they are battered and very well thumbed and very well read, and these are the Louise Renison books.
Yeah, I don't remember how many times I've read these, maybe at least 3 times through, and there's 10 books. I don't think I've read all 10 all the way through, but I've read quite a lot of them all the way through. And it's basically just about a girl called Georgia Nicholson. There's a film of this as well that we actually went to see together.
And it's really good.
And it's just about her being in school, boy troubles, all that type of stuff. It's just really relatable, but just really fun as well. Like, she's such a good writer.
Did you have Jacqueline Wilson around about that time as well?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't remember exactly, but it might have been before or after these. But I read a lot of Jacqueline Wilson. I think some of my favourites were the Girls in Love series, Girls Out of Time. I think there were 4 of them. I don't remember what they were all called. But that was also about a girl who had 2 other friends, and she always thought that they were prettier than her. And then a boy actually liked her, and it was all a bit messy after that. I don't have similar experiences to that, but obviously everyone kind of feels that way when they're younger.
So they were sort of like middle grade books.
Mm-hmm.
So what sort of got you to think that you were growing out of those type of books, and how did you move on from there?
It was very, like, my transition from stages of different age genre books have been very sudden. So I remember the exact book it was that I changed to not wanting to read that and wanting to read like YA books, and that was Jackie Daydream, which was Jacqueline Wilson's autobiography, I think. I got halfway through of it, got bored, and then didn't pick up a children's book ever again. And I think it might have been Twilight that I started reading after that.
Yes.
I think Twilight was my first teen fiction.
Yeah, and I do have to take full responsibility for that, and it did. I bought Lorna the Twilight book because I saw it advertised, and I'm always researching books and things like that, and I thought she'd like it. But oh my goodness, we lived Twilight for about 3 years.
It became a religion.
It became very obsessional. It was in that sort of young teenage years where you just get that mad obsessive phase, and if you're going to get madly obsessive about anything, then it can't be better than a book. But every conversation we had was Twilight related.
Yeah.
We went to the Twilight films, and you absolutely, like, you just fangirled out big time. And in order to have those conversations with you, I read all the Twilight books as well, because otherwise we just would not have been on the same planet. And I enjoyed them too, so it was great to share that as well. We've gone from me reading to you, you reading some books on your own, and then from YA onwards, we've shared books and we've had that conversation, we've read along together, because...
This is a big one. This is The Hunger Games, and a lot of people, they get a bit funny when things are popular, so like the films were really popular and the books were really popular before that. And there is a bit of a block, do you think, with some people where...
They don't like hyped.
Yeah, they don't like hyped books, but we were lucky enough to read these books before the films came out, which is always the best way around to do it.
Obviously, that's the law.
I think this was one of the first books where I just didn't sleep to finish it. The first bit of this book is a little bit slow. It's still...
About the first 80 pages, isn't it? You're just thinking...
It's still a good book, but then obviously she goes into the Hunger Games and you cannot stop. And you cannot stop for 3 books. And so I think it's one of the trilogies that you recommend most to people.
Yeah.
And she always says you need to get all 3 books because you will not be able to stop.
I don't know how anyone who read these books as they came out one by one slowly coped with it. Because I think this is one of the nice things is that I've recommended books to you, but you recommended these to me. And so we've sort of started to share that with each other, and you said, don't read just one, you've got to, and you were right, and I absolutely gobbled them up in a weekend, one after the other. As soon as I finished the last page of one book, I had to read the first page of the next book, which is quite rare for me because usually I have a bit of book hangover and I need a little bit of time. So we started then at this point in time recommending books to each other, didn't we? So there was another book that you read that I can see on your little pile that you've got that you introduced me to. Although I did have it on my shelf for a while, I'd never read it. So do you want to tell us about this one?
Okay, so this is To Kill a Mockingbird, and I didn't pick this up myself, we had to read it for school, and because I was lucky enough to be in set 1 for English and all the rest of the school was doing Of Mice and Men, and I've read Of Mice and Men and I don't really rate it very much, but for some reason they decided to give set 1 a different book, which was To Kill a Mockingbird, and I'm so glad that they did because it's just an amazing book with one of probably the best characters ever written.
I would say this is a life-changing book.
I think it is, because especially when you learn the context in which Harper Lee wrote this, where she was from in the Deep South. If you've not read it, it's just basically a book about being a nice person, doing the right thing.
Yeah. It's got, there's so much in it. And I'd had this on my shelves for a while, but I'd never read it, and it's one of the books I never read at school. Well, and I'm so glad that that your teachers chose this for you, because I still may not have picked this up. And we both just talked about it non-stop. I mean, we still talk about it now.
Yeah, and this was when I wasn't in the vampire phase anymore. I actually got into K-pop and anime and kind of the Asian culture thing, and I was one of those people who was very fangirl and very like tunnel vision when I like things. And so Ma decided to get me Memoirs of a Geisha, because this is obviously set in Japan, and that was my interest at the time. And I don't think you have to be interested in Japan like at all beforehand to read it. It's such a good book. Would you describe
Well,
it?
I think this was a landmark book for you, but I got it for you because it was a landmark book for me, because I read this round about the time it came out, and it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. And it was a time where I wanted to sort of expand the books I was reading and maybe read something a little bit different. So I started to look at some of the books that have been nominated for prizes and things like that. And that's what sort of motivated me to pick it up, and was absolutely blown away by it. And this is a book by Arthur Golden, and basically it follows the life of Sayuri, who is a girl who's sold by a family to an Hokkaido, which is the house that trains the geisha girls. And all her training is basically, it's like university fees now. She's in debt to the Hokkaido, which she's got to earn back the money as she becomes a geisha. And it's not one of those books I'd want to give anything away about. It's an absolutely fascinating life. There is bitchiness. I mean, one of the best baddies I have ever read in a book is Hatsumomo in this, who's one of the older geishas in the Hokkaido. And there's about jealousy and spite, and yeah.
I think it's just the main character, Sayuri, you feel her struggle. She's doing her best in a time which wasn't very good for women at all, and she just becomes from a little scared girl to a very strong woman, which I think we all can relate to.
Yeah.
As we grow.
Yeah. This is definitely, and what was lovely about this is that you started to appreciate the books that I liked as well, because obviously I had to wait for you to catch up to that age group where you could understand and fully get the most from the books I was recommended, and so this probably was the beginning of you transitioning into adult reading. And so from there, where did we go from there?
Well, there's so many books that I've read that of yours now. I don't really have any books of my own because you've seen the shelves.
I was going to say, what makes you decide on what to read, but yeah.
Well, because
You've got your own personal vetting service.
Yeah, because I'm in university right now, I have to read a lot of academic books or journal articles, and therefore I find it quite hard to pick up a book in my spare time. So when I do, I want it to be worth my while. So basically I ask you what's a 5-star read for you, and then I'll read it. Before that though, we've got a couple of books that are just amazing that you recommended to me. For example, The Help. I mean, this is a really popular book now, I think, and rightly so.
I've never met anyone who hasn't loved this book.
If you've not read it, it's just about people helping each other out, and you know, standing up to bitches, basically. Yeah.
Well, this is The Help by Catherine Stockett, and it's set in the 60s in, I think, again, this is Alabama. No, Jackson, Mississippi. This is. And basically it's all about the maids, the black maids that white people employ, and these black maids are the mothers of the children. They bring them up, and so the children obviously have a different relationship with the maids than the mothers do. The mothers are from a different era where they regard them, and it's at the times where there's segregation, where, you know, there's a big part in this about the maids having to have their own toilet, and it's just it is. If you've not read The Help by Catherine Stockett, you are in for a treat. It is wonderful. There are funny bits in it. There are...
angering bits.
Bits that will incense you. But it is, again, an absolutely amazing book. And the film of it as well is really well done. What's the most recent book that you've read and enjoyed?
A Man Called Ove.
Yes.
I think. You sent me that while I was in university. I just got a package and it was there, and
I love doing that.
I just got a text message saying read it, and I did, and you've definitely talked about this on your channel before.
Oh yeah,
I know you have.
Yeah, and I'll probably talk about it again.
Mhm. It's another one of those heartwarming stories. I mean,
it's a hug in a book.
Yeah, it is. It's about a grumpy old man, and obviously at first you just see him as a grumpy old man, but then you learn his backstory and why he's like that, and actually he's not so bad after all. And
he's just lovely. Nice
guy.
Lovely.
And it's just about the community and the neighbourhood and how everyone helps each other out, and it's just wonderful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It will make you laugh, it will make you cry, but it's one of those books that you'll just have a big sigh at the end of, and you will have book hangover after you've read it.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading...
Oh, yes.
What is it called?
Are you reading A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers?
Which I've not read that much of yet. I think I've just read about 100 pages. But Becky Chambers is a very good writer, so I'm already into it.
Yeah, and that is one of the Christmas books that I got that you've nabbed off my pile, so I've not had a chance to read that yet, but so I'm sure you will let me know what you think of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to have to finish it because I'm going back to uni.
Yes, you will, and I've got to read it too. So this is just a little thing we thought we would do, to talk about how we've influenced each other's reading and what we've thought of different books that we've read along the way, and how we've discovered things, and how we've come to that point where we've realised we've got quite similar tastes in books now, and that we share them, and it's a great thing to talk about, and you're the only other person in the family who has the booky thing like I do. So I hope you found this interesting. We may do this again with some other little things we want to talk about and tell you about what we're both reading and what we've shared and what we've enjoyed and what we've recommended to each other. I will see you all soon. Keep reading. Bye!